Hello everyone. Thank you for joining us in another APPI training practice class focused on applying precognition. This class will actually be a focus on feedback. We've previously done focus on remote viewing and judging, plus some other combined ones in this series. Here's what we'll be doing today. The general approach is definitely hands-on, learn by doing. And we have previously, and I've got some transcripts from there, and I don't know if anyone here brought transcripts with them, but we'll ask about that later. But here was a specific coordinate, and the question was, will the Dow Jones be over 21,000 by the 6th of February? So that now is resolved. And I actually want to start doing that. So we're going to jump right in with that feedback session. And it turns out I really kind of like the way this has worked out, because one of my favorite sayings about precognition is that precognition begins with the feedback session. So we'll in fact begin this class with the feedback session. And then we'll do another prediction as we've been doing in all these classes for at least 1 month in the future, trying to keep them within a month to several months, less than a year. And for that, we'll do the remote viewing session, we'll do the judging session, so you'll all do that. And we ask the viewers to send to me via email attachments their transcripts, and so we can discuss those, which turns out to be very valuable for everyone, I believe. And that feedback won't happen until June of 2017. Okay, so here is basically the remote viewing which was done. It all begins with a link in a tasking email, and again the coordinate was 532773, and then a person would upload their transcript as we did here, and hit submit, and then go on from there. Now, and then we did the judging, and this was back in early January. I've forgotten the date now, but it was quite a while ago, about a month ago, and we had these people involved, and just as you're going to do later, if there's an absolute newbie here, most of you I think know this, but we'll do a confidence ranking on 2 possible outcomes. So this is the first time we've been able to actually show the 2 possible outcomes with the rankings. And in this case, you can see most of the rankings, it's a 0 to 7 ranking, are on the A. This is called photo site A. These were just possible targets when we did this, but we predicted this would be the photo that we would see at feedback, and it happened to be associated with no, that the Dow indeed would not be over 21,000, and we found all that out. But do note that one person was on the other side, and that's pretty typical. It's rare to have it be as clean as everything being all on one side. And that's because no one's 100%, and we always get a mix. Now, so after that page, we saw a judging page that came up with the exact prediction of the no. And it gives a summary of what I put in as the group prediction, 4.5 for photosite A and 3 for photosite B, based on the numbers you saw before, which was, you know, a reasonable representation of all those 5s and some lower than 5. Okay, so the prediction was no. Now, the program we're using, the winning entanglement program, and we're going to go to the next step now for those of you who use and want to use it really is user-friendly. And everything is done via email and the internet, a server. So here, and let me see, feedback. Okay, so this right here is the typical link that you'll get back when the feedback is available. It was only until February 6th, when the outcome was known for sure, that I went in as group manager and put in the actual outcome. You always put in the actual outcome, and in this case the winning side was no, which was there was only one coordinate, so that was side 1. And the Dow Jones Industrial, I wrote this as a general manager, was only 20,052, so indeed it was under 2100. And then to find the correct feedback that's associated with the correct outcome, you would simply click here. You put in your email. Each person would have their own individual feedback, but I did it for a group in these classes. So I will put in my name because I was representing all of us, and we click here, and there it is. So voila, you now have the feedback target for the coordinate 532773. So now it would be time to do the feedback session, and we're going to go through some of those, and then you simply put in some comments here which are saved for you. The server saves these, and you can go back and see these later, which in fact is part of the way you can improve, is by reviewing what's happened in the past. Okay, so we do that. And now let's take a look at one particular transcript with the feedback. So now this would be the general approach. Is Ramel here? Yes, you are. Hi, Ramel. This is Ramel's transcript, which he would then have in front of him, just like we're doing here now. And he would have the feedback picture in front of him because, you know, as we just saw, he got that from the internet. And now what do you do? Well, the general approach is, first of all, in this case, he knows he got a hit, and so you get really happy. I mean, the feedback really is, just think about it. We know precognition is real. How does that information get out into the matrix? How does it get out there? I call it the universe of collective consciousness. It gets out there from this session right now. You're paying attention to what is now the target. Up until just seeing this, it was called a photosite because it was one of 2 possible targets, but we now know that this is the target. Okay, so you're paying attention to that, but you're connecting it up with your transcript to light it up, if you will. So you look at your transcript and you say, okay, what are these things that really, really match? And Ramel, you've got a mic. Why don't you go and actually do it? You know, I know you do these and you mark up your transcripts. So why don't you do a feedback session right now?
Okay. When I'm looking at this, I see the colors. You know, the blue, white, they're prominent, and there is a peak. Like it's up high. There is definitely an acme. It's like I was really drawn to be up high, upscale,
Mm-hmm.
and it's also upscale. So it's something that I'm looking at in a way that it's a perspective, and I believe every viewers have their own. It doesn't have to be completely the same as mine, but this is just like how I look at it. And right below it is our like netting. I usually get this because I've been remote viewing for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Usually when the netting comes in, I have, you know, somehow my unconscious would tell me that I'm looking at something more either microscopic or macroscopic. So it's like a perspective. This is like one of those things that, you know, you cannot force yourself to get it. I just get it. So, and I
Interesting.
see flashes of light. So I find that it's a very good hit compared, you know, knowing that the target is actually there, you know. So I'm very happy about that. It's like, oh, this is really right on. Um, the next one is like a television. So I get this as well. When when I did like remote viewing with David Morehouse, somehow I would get like telescope sometimes when I actually am remote viewing, you know, like a deep space or something like that. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
telescope, and I even got it before. Like I'm looking at a telescope invertedly, like I was looking at it in a different way.
Is
So
that,
it's
and
like,
that's how you interpreted it when you were looking at this, that that might be a telescope, not a building or anything else?
but I think it's more like it's more it's like symbolical to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like just like on top of this is the screen, and then this thing. So I'm looking at something that has connections with flashes of light. All I can see is that, okay, this is how my brain would interpret it
Yeah,
in a
okay.
way that it's like, oh, okay, I'm looking at something, and I don't know if it's microscopic or microscopic. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's a telescope or it's something that's like in the television.
Interesting.
So I'm actually looking at it in a different level because I cannot really connect with it like physically.
Wow. Okay, and so now that you, all of that was so interesting in this part of it, and now that you see this, of course, you know, aha, it was obviously a telescope-like thing that I was.
Yeah, or something that I have to observe on a different level, not really just with my eyes. It's like you have to observe it in a different level. Be either I could be very, very, very small, or I can be very, very, very big.
Okay, cool.
Correspondingly. And then I get this when I'm like, you know, I'm actually evaluating the feedback. I don't analyze when I'm on session. So know that I'm speaking right now as I evaluate the feedback.
Right,
So
and right. Mhm.
yeah, so I look it down here. It's like there's a black, white. I don't know about this hard. It's just hard, smooth.
Hard,
So there's a
smooth.
yeah, there's contrast of different bands. So I just like what I said. I just go through it as as I have. Just like, okay, this is definitely in the piano scale again, and the piano. It's just to me. It's just like I can't. This is frustrating for me actually when if I'm looking at this like, oh my god, I'm frustrated if I don't know what a target is. Like, I don't understand this. Is like a television and there's this thing, but you're not there to analyze. You're just there to capture it. And then page two, looking at this, it's just it's great in a way. I like this structure in a way that there's this white here. So there's a prominent of bandwidth, something of bandwidth. So there's a white in here, and there's gray over here, and I think I do it like like a C crest, you know, like when they polyps, like, so it's just, this is quite interesting. And then it evolved from there to like a big structure. It's like ornate, it's like vast. And I felt like it's like, it's a nuclear bombing. So all I get is like space of stuff. And there's a nuclear bombing, and then there's this flashes of light. So, and noted that I've done this is only in the matter of 7 minutes of remote.
That's how long all of this came into you. Do you, when you do
Yeah.
feedback, and I think I know the answer to this because I think I've seen it, you tend to circle the good stuff. Do you do it on a separate sheet of paper or
Oh
on
yeah.
the
I don't know
regular?
why. Yeah, I have a ritual now. Like I use a pink pen, or like a marker, so
Mm-hmm.
that I could kind of celebrate it, like, you know. And I have my own beacon, you know, like I would smell the rose, because like I really really like rose. It's like that's the smell of, like, so when I do the feedback, it's like, oh yeah, this is great. So what I would do is underline and then encircle significant ones that I hit. So
Okay. So
I
you
think this
do
one I
something,
gave like a 4.0 CRV.
well, you gave yourself a 5 on this one,
Oh, did I?
I think, or maybe
Uh,
it was a 4. I can't remember. The 5s were at the top. Anyway,
yeah.
thank you. I mean, I think the point that everybody should get from this is there were some things here that were very personal to your approach. This would not have much meaning to anybody else, and yet to you it meant it was either very, very small or very, very large, which is rather interesting. So when you're doing the judging that came in, and then all of that was confirmed right now, and of course you're feeling really good, this idea of marking up the um, transcript, I think, is very important. You really want to get into it. You want to light it up. You want your consciousness to really be there with it. Now, there's one other thing which I recommend, and I don't know if you do this, Ramel, but I'd like you to do it now. What additional things do you wish you had in there? In other words, what would make it a little better, that you could say, hey, subconscious, through this communication channel, you know what, this was terrific, especially since, this was great. Thank you. And maybe next time you could also do what? You know,
I require more for my unconscious on this one. I would love to see the contrast of dark as well, because I know I put down white, and then there's also white again and the gray. I would love the dark all
so you
around
might
here.
write dark on your transcript.
Yes,
Uh,
dark. So it's
right.
very important to probe.
Hmm.
I also love to see the colors red, because there's some reddish here as well. I don't think I have
Right.
anything red on that one.
Hmm.
And then this is a good perspective of like a nuclear bombing, which is like
Yeah,
really really
I
cool,
thought that was
very
cool.
energetic.
Mhm.
I'd like to expound on this more, you know,
Maybe
perhaps probably
hot
because of even the
because of
time, the
stars, something like
temperature.
that.
Yes, correct. The temperature,
Hmm.
um, even possibly texture. I don't know if there's a texture in there.
I don't know what texture
I
I
don't know
would.
what kind of texture is sharp,
Okay, we'll talk about that. And
or
then
like
how, yeah.
electrifying.
You see, and I would
Yeah.
say, see, this shape that you drew, what I saw this when I put this slide together, if you look here, I mean, you know, often I would say, hey, somebody might want to draw the shape they missed, but you really got that shape quite well, because of this part right here, the round part, and this part look a lot like that. And the AOL nuclear bomb fits both in the kind of sketch you drew, and that's probably why you did an AOL, but also it was a really good sketch to this. Plus nuclear, the way stars form and stuff like that has a lot to do. So I thought that was excellent. And how much time do you roughly spend with your feedback session?
Um, I think I spent not as much as my regular session, but
Mhm.
it's more on, to me, the feeling that I engage myself in it. I want to make the feedback session as rewarding, as exciting as possible.
Okay.
So it's almost like I'm rewarding my dogs. Like if a dog did, did really well, dog meaning my unconscious, I treat it like you have a really special relationship with your unconscious.
Right.
So you give them a treat. It's like, oh my God. So I want to make it as exciting as possible. I would color it. I would encircle. I would add a little bit more here and there, and I would even redraw something, with another marker so that I know the delineation of like what my
Right.
session is and not.
And all of this takes you maybe 5, 10 minutes, something like that.
Correct.
And that's fine. And it's the intensity, just the way you said it. It's really the focus. It's the attention. We all talk about intention, attention, expectation. All three are in play big time in the feedback. You're paying a lot of attention to this. Okay, that kind of lights it up. But your intention is to, yes, feel good about it, but intend to entangle it with the feedback session, because information, you're putting it out there, you want it to be entangled with your remote viewing session. You want to entangle it with the remote viewing session, and you expect it. And not only that, but you're setting up the whole mindset that all future feedback sessions are going to be entangled with their appropriate remote viewing session. And you're just doing this. So all of this is in the background as you're simply paying attention and doing the feedback, because we all know that we want this entanglement. Do you do anything special with this coordinate? Do you say it out loud? Do you trace over it, just to light it up in particular?
Yeah, great question. I would set my intent on it. So every time, once I did this, I don't understand why I didn't do my, I usually get onto the feeling of my coordinate in here, and I usually write on the right side. And then, so when I go in my coordinates, like, zzz, it just happened. It's like a jerk or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
as you know. I would just trace it. I would make sure that I trace it and I get into the feeling of the coordinate, the ideogram, I should say. So
Right.
when the ideogram is like rising up and then down, and it doesn't necessarily mean that if it's up here, like literally up, that you're actually going up. I could be going down, depending on the where I'm at the target site. So I would just go through it and just get into the feeling of it, the general feeling of it. And usually, when I go through my ideogram, I tend to be spot on. So if I have to choose between two targets of which I have to really, delineate with which one of them is the more acceptable one for me, is like the more I'm really drawn to. Sometimes you have to go through your own feedback. And I'm like, okay, I think, and I would read through the descriptions of how I was in it, and then if it's right on target, then I would give it more confidence
Okay.
rating.
Okay, and that's connecting it up with everything, and they are all connected now. So the remote viewing session, and you went back and we thought a little bit about the judging session. We don't emphasize that, and yet often it is part of it, because some of the words there, and at feedback time we don't emphasize the wrong ones, but nevertheless when you look at it, you might remember that, oh yeah, I remember that went along with the other picture. Certainly don't pay a whole lot of attention to that. You really want to pay attention to the feedback, actual feedback target, which you saw for the first time. Now, another thing that you might do is, this is a descriptor list, and you might in your own mind, just like we asked Ramel, what additional things do you wish you had done? Well, this is the kind of thing which are typical of what comes up for during the remote viewing time for your target. And so you might review a list like this, and it says, oh yeah, you know what, I do wish something else had come up, big, huge. There are other potential words that you say, oh, you know what, that would have fit really well there to make it even a better transcript. Okay, let's do one other one. Now, Lori was the one person, and Lori, are you here? No. But Lori sent this to me, and she was the one who had the 3.5 on the other side. And guess what? That's going to happen to all of us, because none of us are 100% yet, or maybe ever. But even if we get up to 95%, we're going to have misses sometimes. And the feedback session may be more important for the misses than the hits. So this is an example. Now notice the 3.5, and I can't remember what you gave on the other side. I think it was a 1 or a 2. Let's go back and look, because
Can you hear me?
Oh, you are here, Lori?
Yeah, I was trying to tell you.
Oh, okay. I now hear you. Yeah. Terrific. Go ahead. Do you remember what CR you gave?
Well, for A, I gave it myself a 1, and for this, for the tennis player, I gave myself a 3.5.
Okay. God, I somehow jumped way ahead here. Let's get back to where we are. Yeah. Wow. Okay. This is an interesting preview you're getting. Okay. There you are. Okay. So how would you go about doing feedback here from a miss to try to learn something and be positive about it?
Well, I just over the weekend took an ARV class with Lori Williams, and she said even if you got the wrong, the wrong target, you look at the feedback that was correct target, and you say, oh yeah, this was the feedback, yay, and you get excited about that. Right. So you don't get excited, or you don't, feel bad about like what you didn't get.
Right. Exactly. And notice you got sky. Now you checked it, and I don't know if that meant there was sky in the other, but you should say, okay, hey, yeah, I got sky. And did you get any other kinds of things? Motion?
Yeah, I got motion. I guess that thing.
You might say, yeah. What else did you get?
I got motion. I guess the star blue opposite is probably motion there. Sky. I got white, blue, red. I got.
That's true.
Mushroom shape if you were thinking about a nuclear bomb going off.
That's interesting. Did you say that? No, you got mushroom shape. Did you write nuclear bomb anyplace?
No, but Ramel said it, so I thought, oh yeah, I got mushroom shape. Maybe it's the same thing, that I had that idea that something was blowing up.
Oh, I see. Okay. So you would say that now. Oh, that's what my subconscious was trying to tell me.
Right.
Perfect, because that does have, in fact, the picture does have that mushroom shape. Doesn't that look a little bit like, maybe I'm stretching? And you don't want to stretch too far, but I think the nuclear connection was a better one. Okay, and then you would go and say, okay, what do I wish I had done, and maybe you might put in a sketch, like that, a mushroom cloud or something, or a sketch of what that was, just just something quick. In other words, had this been on your page, that sketch right there, you would have given a higher score to it. Oh yeah, there you are, 3.5 and a 1. Um, and what other words do you wish you had done? So you go back here, and you don't even have to go back. It's worth going back for a while just because you see other words which you might want to use. But, I think in this case, um, under dimensions, there must be the word huge or something in here. Yeah, here's huge. And far would be interesting. I hadn't thought about that one. Um, uh, Black for the colors. Uh, Smells and tastes don't fit real well, at least it isn't obvious to me, and so you don't add any. And while you're doing a remote viewing session, you probably would not have gotten any, which is actually in some way supportive of that site. I don't see textures fitting. Aesthetic impact might fit because you might be awed by the picture, we're looking at a galaxy far away, that sort of thing. Uh, but you understand the idea. When you do your feedback session, you really get into it, you get into the picture, and whether you have a hit, miss, or a pass, you uh, really work it. Okay?
Yeah.
So I think you got it. There was one other one which I got here, and this was just an email. You had to leave early. But what I wanted to emphasize here was that, well, let me read it. This was hard for me to judge because side A value was really higher than that for shape and color. In other words, he did a good job on shape and color, but he didn't do well because he had wrong data. I had something small, which I guess is actually ambiguous since it is a small part of the photo itself in the vastness of space, but I was thinking in terms of a few feet long. Also, as I had seen, this is underwater. The points I wanted to make here is when he was judging this, he's explaining why he downgraded it. When he is doing his feedback section, and Bill isn't here, he should say, oh, look at that, the water. Come on, that's a medium. I think my sub was trying to actually tell me that there was something in a big medium, and that these interpretations, maybe I should, be open to the fact that my subconscious at this point is still, it is ambiguous, and sub, I'd like you to get better at that. But he, on his transcript or words that he put down, or could have put down, I guess he put it down someplace, um, said, next time give me huge, and maybe embedded, or other kinds of words that are a little bit more specific to this particular target. So hopefully all of this is just giving you a much better feeling of what you do at feedback time. Get positive about it. Give yourself credit for everything you can. And then here I'm saying it's like do an RV session again. And it really means just add to it, sort of using your RV senses and the kind of information your subconsciousness is giving you, but make it a little better to expand this communication channel between your sub and your conscious mind. So, when you get your hit, there's stuff you can learn from there, for sure. And I say be happy. Now, what happens if it's a miss or a pass? Hey, same thing. There's, first of all, you can try to figure it all out and all that. And here's a nice um, graphic someone made for me. And it's just interesting, intellectual, but you know what? This is not an intellectual process. During this time, look into your own sub to get some information about what happened. Do all the things that we've talked about. And what you're learning about here is yourself, how your communication channel works. And that's the whole purpose of doing all of this stuff. So do it. And again, mostly be happy. I mean, you've chosen to be on what is really the cutting edge of knowledge. I mean, precognition, connections with consciousness, all of that stuff is touching what is right at the edge of our understanding of reality. I mean, hey, you're an adventurer, you're an explorer, and be happy about all that, and be happy that what's being expanded here is knowledge about reality, but knowledge about yourself and reality. So just remember, you don't learn to walk by following any specific rules. You mostly learn by doing and falling over. So the misses really are an opportunity then to get up and do it again and learn. Okay, so this idea of being creative is very important because I hope most of you are in this for the longish term. One prediction doesn't really mean much. It's when you do many, when you get into a rhythm and you integrate it into your life. And keeping it interesting is a part of it. And so part of that responsibility, maybe all of that responsibility, in fact, is yours. Beacons are a way of doing that. The basic beacon is just the coordinate, and saying it out loud, writing it with intention, tracing over it, all helps the subconscious mind tune in, if you will, to the feedback target with that coordinate. And saying it out loud really vibrates through your whole body and acts as a beacon when it connects up with saying it out loud at remote viewing time and feedback time. But there are plenty of other kinds of beacons. Food are kind of fun. You could take a bite of cookie or an apple or whatever at remote viewing time, and then take another bite at feedback time, for example. Or you could use anything else. You can use sandpaper, get into the texture of it, and then get into the texture of it at feedback time. Or just something you like, a coin. It could be anything. The point is you are creating that entanglement. Okay, so the creativity part is personal. And what you're doing is showing with this kind of attention and intention and have expectation that you're building up an internal self-awareness with the communication channel always being broadened, being expanded, being made better, because that's a really worthwhile objective, not only for precognition, but for your whole life, to be more and more in touch with a deeper inner part of yourself. So the other thing which we don't focus on as much as intention, attention, and expectation, but perhaps we should, are your belief system. What you believe about your capabilities, how much in touch can you in fact be, is important. That's one of the beliefs. How deeply do you really believe you can do this? Can you really get up to 95%? And that gets challenged when you have a miss or two. And that's the time to in fact look at it and meditate on it, and I frankly think improve that belief, because there's plenty of evidence that we can get up much higher. So the intellect can be convinced. Now you got to get it down into the subconscious. And often these beliefs, as well as intention, attention, and expectation, are a little bit more subtle. And sometimes there are contradictory things going on. Let me just give you one story of the best one that I heard of. And that is a person who initially had said his intention was to make a lot of money, and yes, also improve his consciousness and all that, but making a lot of money was high on his list, and there's nothing wrong with that. That was what he was focused on. And he said, actually later in a workshop, do you know what I have just realized? That I'm a little bit afraid of making a lot of money, because if I do, I might start fooling around with other women and get divorced. That was something which was in him, which was interesting, I thought, because it just shows you how we all have like multiple personalities within us. And they might have different belief systems, and bringing those into alignment is important. And ultimately, we want to develop a robust precog confidence in ourselves. And as you probably all know by now, I like Abraham Hicks, and here is really something which, again, you have to get deep down inside yourself. If this time-space reality has the wherewithal to inspire desire within you, okay, each of us, it also has the wherewithal to deliver it to you in its fullest, most satisfying form. So, getting that deep down is important. Your goal is not only to, I believe almost all of us that are in this for the long time, the goal isn't only to have a good hit rate, to do really well on each target, on as many targets as we can, and get up to the 80% hit rate, say, as a first milestone. But it's to deepen ourselves. It's to expand the communication channel, which is totally in line with reaching that objective. So, okay. I just gave a few examples here of what you might desire, and improving my precog capabilities, become wealthy in a healthy way, educate society about precognition and consciousness. So be an example of someone who is in a very healthy way, got a high hit rate, for example, and share it and educate. Make your desire personal and clearly define it to the intellect and internally to your subconscious. All of this has got to be done internally. Now, all of this is kind of connected to the feedback and connected to what we're about to do next, which is remote viewing. And I say that because at feedback time is when you're just automatically focused on this, and when you get a hit, miss, or a pass is a really good time to reaffirm what it is that you're doing. It's just sort of natural. I want to learn more. I want to get better. I want to whatever. That happens at feedback time. Feedback time is the time to deepen yourself and to learn. But integrating this in your life is kind of part of that, because you want to do this for the long term. You want to have the other benefits of a really robust communication channel. So this is what I mean by robust confidence. And this delivery system, getting what you desire, okay, the desire is here, getting what you desire, the delivery, all of it happens kind of together, getting this robust confidence, keeping it, defining it in a way which is makes sense to you and goes deep. And that's why I never recommend anybody say they want to be 100%, because there's just too much evidence that that's hard. It's hard to believe that all of you is really going to have that as a real something to be delivered, that you can get good positive feedback in a reasonable amount of time. So 80% is what I've at least chosen, but each of you have to do this yourself. This is all very personal. Okay, there's this guy who I happened to find on the net. His name is Mike Dooley. Here is a video. It's really an interview that he did. It's right here, so you can find it. And I really recommend it. He put together in just a really beautiful way, using the law of attraction idea, which comes from Abraham, basically, in a way which is just so right on in terms of getting something like a robust confidence, in our case in precognition, but in things in general. So I recommend that. And then ultimately, actions speak louder than words. And all of this, just stay engaged. You just keep doing it. All of that is very important. Okay, let's transition now. Are there any questions? Okay, good. I can see, John, you're keeping up with that. That's terrific. Okay, very good. But, okay. If there are no, I'll go on. If there are questions, you can turn on your mic. Okay, David, I see you turned on your mic. You have a question?
Oh, that's me. I'm sorry. I have my husband's name on there for some reason.
Oh, okay. But do you have a question, or you're okay?
Yeah. Was that like Doodly? If I Google it, the interview with that.
Oh, Dooley. Yeah. Let me see. Let me see if I do an escape here. If okay, wait, I think I can put, let me see if I can put this. I've got it here on my other screen. Oh, darn it. I guess I can't copy it. It's a trace. Okay, anyway, it's Dooley. And if you look him up, and in this video, you can go and get this or write it down now. Okay, so.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's do a new prediction. The one which we're going to do is a soccer. It had to be more than a month away, has to be really well defined. And that turns out to not be as easy as you might always think. But in this case, here's the question. Will either, and I don't even know what team this is. Soccer is not something I pay a lot of attention to, but there are one or two teams, this one or Tottenham, be the UEFA, so this is a big soccer league winner for the season 2016 to 2017. Now notice I put two teams. The reason, and this is really big. We think the Super Bowl is big. It turns out soccer worldwide, the major big games get even more viewers than our Super Bowl. So as you all, I think, do know, soccer, what in Europe they actually call football, is really big. So here's a case where there are lots and lots of teams, and with lots of teams, as I'll show you later, the odds tend to be really good on any specific team. And of course the favorites would have the lowest odds, but still reasonably high when you have like 16 or more teams this early before the actual game. And the game's going to be in June, so now they're doing the preliminaries. So what I wanted to show you is these two teams. I'm in a position, if we say yes, to make this wager. If it's a no, I won't do the wager. That's the idea, and you may want to do the same strategy or not. But for the Man UTD team, I think that's Manchester United or something like that, if I were to put on a $10 wager, I would win $41. Notice the second favorite team, Tottenham, if I put up $10 and they win, I would get $75. So that means if I wager on both of these, I'm putting up $20. Worst case, I double my money because I get my $20 back plus 40. In the best case, I put up $20 and I get 75 back. So that's a reasonable kind of thing to do if the answer, in fact, turns out to be yes. If the answer is no, we won't do anything. There are other teams which go up to, if I put up $10, I could win $1,000, and we'll actually see that later, I think. But that's the reason this is a reasonable kind of question and how you would, in fact, act on it. Now, let's just get into RVing and then we'll do it. The cue will be describe and or sketch, and this is always our cue, and then we have a 6-digit coordinate feedback target, just like we saw before, except now we'll have a different coordinate. Okay, and some people, depending on their training, might call that a transcript reference number. That's what the TRN is. Okay, on this one slide, I want to tell you everything you need to know about binary ARV. In other places, I've gone into a lot of detail. Here, I want to make it as short and crisp as I can. So in binary ARV, binary means two. There are two sides. The objective is to predict the winning side. What do I mean by winning? Winning side is, remember, the two sides, like up and down, heads and tails. Winning side is what actually happens. So we're making a prediction of something in the future. It has two possible outcomes, and the one that actually happens is the winning side, okay? So that makes sense, I think. You won't have any problem understanding that. We call these sides, cleverly, side 1 and side 2, right? But that can be up and down or down and up. If you're talking about, say, financial movements of prices, does the price go up or down in one day, in 1 month? Does it go up over 21,000 for the Dow Jones? up or down, or one a possible two sides. For sports, it could be team A wins or team B wins. Again, the order, you don't know what the order is. Side 1 and side 2 could be randomly switched. Over, under, favorite, underdog, but two choices. These are all equivalent to yes, no. Will side 1 win? Yes or no? And the yes or no could be, again, in a random order. We make this so you have no choice but to go to your target to get the answer. Now, in the classes, we're doing predictions for a month or more. Okay, these are not even odds predictions. There's nothing that says these have to be even odd predictions. You can still ask the yes/no question. So that's what we're doing. This is where we are now. So I'm just showing you examples of yes/no questions. So far we've got 2 hits. This is the one we're putting in right today that we're going to be doing. Now here's the bottom line summary. Once you got the sense of what it is we're doing with 2 sides, okay, 2 sides, 2 possible photosite targets. In these ARV predictions, 1 photosite will be associated with yes, 1 photosite will be associated with no. The target is the photosite associated with yes or no that actually happens. So having done the feedback first, this really ought to be clear. There were 2 potential targets, potential photosite targets. Those, 1 was associated with yes, 1 was associated with no. The actualized target, what actually happened in the previous case that we just looked at, was the stars, and that became the target because what actually happened was the no answer. The other picture you would have seen if the answer was yes. Okay, any questions there? That's what ARV is all about. And even this much discussion is irrelevant when you're doing your remote viewing session and your feedback session. All you want to do is entangle those, connect those, describe and sketch the feedback target for your coordinate. I want to make a few more points as we're getting close to doing this, and that's the intention part. Remember, remote viewing, what we're doing now comes first. There is this judging, which we'll do. You sort of ignore that when you're doing remote viewing, and you connect up here. Precognition begins with the feedback session when you put the target into the universe of collective consciousness. And that's your intention. Describe and sketch your feedback target. And during the feedback session, as we said, you do the same thing, but you're always working to improve, to expand yourself, to deepen yourself, to expand the communication channel. But it is amazing. I've been basically talking about the target as the feedback photosite forever, and yet getting it so deep that everything else becomes irrelevant seems to be hard, because I just get people telling me, oh, what I drew is what I saw on TV the night before, stuff like that. There's so many images that come through your mind that you just need to be really clear deep down. Hey, sub, yeah, I know there's other stuff that interests you, and maybe that's what you wanted to discuss, but not during my remote viewing session, please. And it'll listen, or might give you some information back about why it did it, but you want to get it more and more in sync with you to both intend and then the other word, expectation. So you want to expect this, and that's where this confidence comes in. You know, you expect the sun to rise tomorrow, and you have a kind of deep confidence about that. I mean, you just take it for granted. It's that kind of expectation. You're going to really get to the point, and you need to, feedback time is when you work on this, that you are expecting to just get better and better at this, and you're learning, and you know it's going to happen. And you know that partially from a future self that's already there. Intention, attention, expectation play a very important role. And this was by Joe McMonagle and Ed May. And what you're really paying attention to is your conscious mind. It is all that we have right now. It's what you're conscious of. But that information comes from someplace else. It comes from memories. It comes from maybe behaviors before that are similar to your environment now, and then something comes into your conscious mind. The physical world that you're experiencing, but where are you in fact experiencing it? You're experiencing it in your conscious mind. And all of that, how you take it in, how you respond to it, is really coming from the submerged consciousness, your subby. Some people like to call it the subby. But, you know, it could be the higher self, your guide, you know, whatever word you use, but you know it's from something bigger, deeper than the moment you're experiencing right now. Okay, cool down. The cool down is the preparation for RVing. I did something brand new here. I actually made a video. It's something I've been wanting to do for a while, and you'll see the first attempt shortly. The purpose of a cool down is to calm your mind, empty the mind in preparation for remote viewing. So it's a mental kind of discipline. Get rid of anything else other than the information from the feedback target. Okay, and Joe McMonagle says that 75% of the discipline, which is interesting that he came up with a number that big, but it makes sense because what you're doing is connecting up. We use these beacons, we use the coordinate, we use our intention and expectation to get connected to the feedback target. Well, the intention then, once you're connected, is, you know, from your sub to your conscious mind. That information has to get from the target somehow through your subconscious to your conscious mind. Okay, why don't you get out a sheet of paper. Some of you use blanks. This is just an example for newbies of the kinds of things which are typical. You can put your name, a date, and time on the right. We haven't gotten the coordinate yet. We'll do that next. And if you have a special beacon you'd like, you might write it down here just to remind you what it is for this coordinate. And then when we get started, you'll write the coordinate again and do an ideogram, a squiggle. And what usually comes through first are the big picture stuff like gestalts, huge, water, mountains, action, sort of a summary of some of the major things going on in the target. And sketches are really valuable because they tend not to come from the analytical, intellectual part of you. and that's what this is for. Analytical overlays. If you get a sense that this is an analytical thing, write it over here. It gets rid of it. That's why I also call it trash, so that you can get a new element, a new precept to come up. And then, as I showed with the possible words, a lot of people get a mix. Most people, in fact, get a mix of sketches, elements of the target that they sketch, and then words and categories like you see here, which you saw in that other chart. And if you want a copy of this or that other chart, just email me and I'll send it to you. Okay, so you've got that set. Again, here's the kind of words, and I can send this to anybody who's interested, or you can screen capture it. Okay, so how do I start? Well, you need a coordinate, right? To start your remote viewing session, you need a coordinate. We use we, and just like we did our feedback in linear time, for this prediction, it all starts with what the general manager puts in and sends out then to an email like this. So this is an email to the webinar workshop. That's us. You know, we have a lot of other groups, and this then would go out to everybody in the group. I'm playing the role as one person for the whole group, and so all I have to do is click here, and that begins the process. So it's that simple. As a group manager, you can see I put in here the question: will either Manchester United or Tottenham be the UEFA soccer winner? And okay, here's the date is June 3rd. So apparently the game, you know, when I looked all this up, I got the date. It was June 3rd. Okay, so let's get the coordinate. So I click there, and every person who is doing this would do is put in the name. So I'm going to put this under my name, so I'll be getting all the emails and everything. So everything comes back to whatever the email address is. And we'll be doing one coordinate, not two. Two just gives you two chances to really get a dynamite session, but they're both going after the same prediction. But we'll be doing one coordinate, and so that's it. The name, again, very user-friendly. We click here, and there is the coordinate. So in the top middle, you should write down, and maybe even now, say out loud, but also say it out loud during your RV session, 558692. And my saying it doesn't help. It's got to be your vibrations from your body. Okay, 558692. Okay, so guess what? The next step is to do the remote viewing session. So we'll get ourselves ready. As I said, I repeated what Joe says here, and now what I want to do is show you and have each of you go on the internet to a URL that well, okay, I did put together, okay, let me do this. I did put together a few more things rather than starting right away, so I apologize, but I think this is valuable information because it is part of the cool down actually, so it sets it up. And this is the connection between the very big, very small, and consciousness. And nothing is really something. And this guy from Fermilab is actually at the beginning of the cool down. It's the transition from kind of the intellectual to I have some hemisync stuff in this cool down, so it'll be an actual 10-minute cool down. And the point is that there's this thing called quantum foam, quantum vacuum, zero-point energy, all referring to the very, very, very small. And I happen to believe that that is the interface where non-physical reality, where raw consciousness resides, which is the fundamental, which then passes through this quantum foam into the physical world as we experience it. And so during the cool down, it's getting in touch with this consciousness, this fundamental field through quantum foam is an interesting thought. It's an interesting idea to make it more plausible to the intellect. The subconscious knows all this stuff. And so, and this is all having to do with quantum mechanics and the uncertainty principle. It's interesting that our feedback session was for the very, very large, very, very large. But what you want to realize is that at every point in even what looks like vacuum, okay, and also inside every star and also inside you is the very, very, very small, right? You can go from a big perspective to a very small perspective. It's amazing that consciousness can do that, but the physical world has that characteristic as well. No matter where you are, you know, you can look around and sort of get a sense of the big, but you can also get a sense of the very small. Okay? This quantum foam is at the very small level, and the guy's going to talk about that. But I want you to know the DNA, which is huge compared to these very, very small sizes. The smallest size possible is at the level of like 10 to the minus 35, a point with 35 zeros after it. And this is only 10 to the minus 8, point with only 8 zeros after it. But this is your DNA. This is like one of the primary vibrational modes, if you will. And in every molecule in your DNA, you get connected there, but also you've got kind of a field. And so your whole body is connected to this zero-point energy field. And that's kind of cool. And I think when you do your meditation, when you do your cool down, the sense of the information coming in through your body and then into your consciousness is in fact what is happening. And we're talking here about trillions of cells. Okay, all of this is coming through the physical space in your body, and not only through your DNA. You've got bacteria in you. You've got these huge things, huge potential for information to come into your consciousness. Okay, here is the URL for the cool down. Let me see. That one I ought to be able to. And I'm doing it this way because there was no way that I could show it directly to you from my computer. No, wait, I'm just trying to copy it here. There we go. I'm going to put it in the chat box. Okay, there it is. And so this is an option. I recommend you listen to it. It is 10 minutes long, and I'm going to turn off my mic, and 10 minutes from now, I will come back with you. So do your session either on your own or listen to the cool down video. Have fun. Okay. Perhaps go down and get one more precept or element. And then you can write EOS for end of session or end on the bottom of your transcript. And then come back to your normal waking state, stretch a little bit. Okay, and talk to me. How did that feel? Anybody? Jen, were you able to, did you watch the video or did you do it on your own?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes, I watched the video. The video was quite good. I did the session. I did a fairly quick session, so I mean, I've got a lot of data here. It's just kind of a mess on the paper.
Okay. Well, we'll do the judging shortly.
It just like when it comes, sometimes it just hits me really fast, and I just had to write everything down that I possibly could get down. So.
Did you think the transition from the intellect to the hemisync to the subconscious communication channel and all that worked?
I'm not sure if the hemisync was working too well. I really couldn't hear it, but I've got a kind of an oddball hearing listening setup, so I don't know if it just wasn't in the range or if my equipment's not working well. I've got the bugs, got to work the bugs out. But I couldn't really hear the hemisync, and I think it's probably because the jack on this thing is probably not the greatest. So.
Did you hear the guy talk about the quantum foam?
Yes.
Oh, you did hear that, but not that interesting. How about somebody else? Yes. John, what was your reaction? You there, John? Though John, yeah, and any of the rest of you. Ramel, did you do it your regular way, or did you listen to the and watch the video?
I got distracted with the sound, his voice, so I turned it off. I want to check it out afterwards, but I did my own pink theta.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
White noise.
Anybody else? Terry, what was your experience of that? Lynn, anybody else? The idea of making either a soundtrack or, okay, you used your own audio. And that was going to be my next point. I made this one, feels right to me, but that doesn't mean it's going to be right for everybody else. The idea of making your own is something you might want to consider. Some music that you like, you might want to use hemisync. That you could come in after a minute or so when the screen goes blank, there are no words, just hemisync, so that'll give you 9 minutes or so. So you could use that, or you could use anything you want as part of the cool down. Okay, nobody else wants to comment on this. Okay, but you were able to get it off the internet, okay. Okay, John, you use hemisync as well, good. Okay, let's go on now to the next step. You all have your remote viewing sessions. What do we do now? Well, let's talk analysis judging. Here is where, of course, we need to match the transcripts to the two possible targets. And we'll do just that. So the first question is, what does that really kind of involve, and what is it that I have to do? Yes, I'm going to be seeing two pictures, and we'll see those shortly. Right now, nobody knows what those are. Only the computer. In fact, the computer doesn't even know because we haven't submitted the transcript. Only after the transcript formally gets submitted is the choice made. So, but before we do that, I want to just give you an overview, and then we'll talk a little bit more specifically. But the overview for the judging is summarized best by this little cartoon. We have a skeptic, we have a remote viewer who is going to describe the photo site, right, that's inside the envelope, and he says it's a charcoal drawing of a woodchuck eating a small orange. The skeptic, of course, wants perfection, and that's one of the problems with a lot of people. They think that the way precognition works, you should be 100% right on, and it doesn't. You're definitely getting information. Like in this case, this was pretty good information. The skeptic's saying that's a long way from an ink drawing, right, compared to a charcoal drawing, of a beaver compared to a woodchuck, eating a tangerine compared to a small orange. The point here is very clear. The communication channel is not perfect. It's got to go through lots of stuff, from this quantum foam through maybe your genes, your nervous system. Certainly, it's got to get into the nervous system to use all of your normal sensory capabilities to get into your conscious mind. So there's some noise which comes in through that process. It's not perfect, but boy, sometimes it does remarkably well, and sometimes it gets close, and that's what judging is all about. So let's now go back here. Remember this page. This is the page where we got our coordinate, and you've now done your transcript. So if you were going in one of the groups, you would now get that transcript onto your computer. Most people these days are using smartphones, and they send it to their computer. Some people even do the whole process on their smartphone, because you can go to the website through the smartphone. But most people are just emailing it to themselves to their computer, use a scanner. But once they get it on the computer, then you do a browse. And so now I can browse anything on my computer. And for the purposes of this webinar, I just use a dummy transcript. Okay, but you would have your transcript in here, which is then available to you in the future. The server saves all this information, so you could go back and have access to this anytime that you want, along with any comments that you're putting in. Okay, so then we hit submit, and now, and you need to be ready for this, get into your intellectual mindset, because now you're going to see, we're about to do the judging. So you're going to see the two choices. Okay, there they are. I'll make this reasonably large. And our job is going to be to use this TAR confidence ranking scale, which I know a lot of you are already familiar with, so you're probably starting to do, but not everybody is, which is just 0 to 7. And we need to put something in for how well your transcript for this coordinate matches photosite A, and then the same thing for photosite B. And that's how you should do it. First, you should take your transcript and focus in on photo site A and start marking up those things which look good to you. Maybe put a symbol A next to the good ones. If it's really good, you might circle it. All of this is to get you to the point, and notice I just clicked on that page, so that is always there. So you can always get to this TAR confidence ranking scale, which is pretty straightforward. 0, 1, and 2 are chance or less. 2 is, we have to acknowledge that just by chance, not really getting psychic information through the quantum foam or however, that, a color came in blue and there's blue in the picture. But, that could just be chance. And if you don't have very much else supporting it, you get 1 or 2 of those and they're not real kind of strong matches. You'd say that's chance. That's a 2. A 3, you're beginning to get enough matches, and the nature of the matches are such that you say, yeah, I think I just did get some psychic contact, but there's this mixture of correct and incorrect. But yeah, I made contact, but it's a level of 3. But we take the point of view that's just on the margin, not enough to wager. You get up to a 4. When you give this a confidence ranking of 4, you're now saying we got good correspondence, good, with several matchable elements intermixed with some incorrect information. So you can see we've raised the bar here to where we've got several good correspondence, and of course there's still some incorrect. People find it hard to distinguish between just being on the margin and good, and in fact that's why we use 3.5 as wagerable. So you're willing to put a few bucks if you give it a 3.5, but that's our bar for wagering. 5 is really very good. Again, good correspondence, but now adding the words unambiguous, unique, matchable elements. And there's still some incorrect information, but now you've gotten to the point where some of the matches are just really right on. And then 6 and 7 bring in this analytical AOL. You name it, you give the function. Some of that stuff which comes from the intellect often is not right and you disregard it, but when it turns out to be right, you rank things higher, like a 6 or 7. So the key numbers to remember are below 3.5 is not wagerable. You don't think your session had good enough psychic information that you'd be willing to wager. 4 or 5 are good, very good. 6 and 7 bring in the analytical. Okay. So what I need to do is to go back to here. And I guess I can keep this on here at the same time. Wait, there's Targ. Oh no, I can't keep it on at the same time. I'm going to do it differently. I'll do it this way. Okay. Okay, so you now should be seeing both of the pictures and the rankings. Now what I'd like you to do now, and I've got a spreadsheet with all of your names on it that I'm just going to move over to my other screen. And in the chat box, I can see a lot of you are already doing it, put a PSA works, photosite A versus photosite B, or CRA, or just an A with a number. All of those will be absolutely clear that your confidence ranking is for a match between A in your transcript or B in your transcript. So I will be putting that into this spreadsheet. Okay. Okay, 1, 3.5. Oh, thank you. And be sure to do these independently. Don't be influenced by anything else but your judgment. You are the judge of your transcript in the match. Okay, bye, Lynn. That's fine. Thanks for joining us up to here. Okay. I've got 4. Take your time. If you're not completed, the judging often takes more time than the remote viewing or the feedback session. And sometimes it doesn't. Okay, let me see. Okay, so I have, okay, Beatrice is not there. And I have Jan John. I am, okay, Millie, are you in the process of, oh, you just gave it to me. Thank you. Okay. And then Ramel, I got. Okay, and Terry, I don't have you. I think you were having trouble. Oh no, that was uploading. Are you still doing it? Which is fine. I'd just like to know if I should expect one or not. Okay, why don't you, I've got everybody else's. Oh, Millie, but I got your. Oh, so you can't up, right. The other thing you guys can do, though, you might wait a bit because I'm going to ask you to do something with your judging. Well, that's right. You've got the judging sheets already potentially marked up. So if you can scan it or in some other way using your smartphone, email me your transcripts now, and we'll take a look at them and discuss them. Terry, I don't know what to do about you. I'm going to move forward. If you have your judging done, we'll just add it here. But at this point, we'll start talking about the judging. Okay, so here is what all of you gave me. And I'm just giving you first thoughts out loud. And you can see, and people, group managers all do this a little differently. But what I like to do is highlight everything which is wagerable. So I'm going to do that. So that's wagerable, 1-5 over there. And Jen, I'd sure like to see your 5. And anybody, feel free to upload them, but you know, in terms of making...
Where are we uploading this site? I don't have an email on this yet, or...
Well, wait, do you have a smartphone or a scanner?
I've got a smartphone. I've got a phone right here. I can do it. I just need the email so I can
email it to Marty at my email, Marty at p-i-a.com. Yeah.
Sure thing. Sure
See,
thing.
and then I'll just pick it up right here. I love it. All this is in real time. Yep.
Do you want the AT&T or the PIA address?
Marty at p-i-a.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good enough. Got it. All right. Now let's see if I can figure out how the heck to do this.
Yeah. John,
my scores aren't on there, Marty.
I'm sorry, John. Say it again.
You didn't capture my scores on there. It's 5 and 1.
Oh.
Sorry, that's backwards. It's just like Jen's, but opposite.
Oh, so you had a 1 and a 5? Okay. Well, that makes the point even stronger. I wonder why I didn't see that. Sorry. And anybody else, make sure your numbers are correct, certainly. Oh, yeah, there they are. Okay, yeah, I just missed it because I went below that. Okay, so here we are. And, well, sort of without having to do too much more, based on this look, we would certainly want to go with B. But then again, I still would like to look at the top ones and agree that we think they're 5s. And also just to talk about it, separate from making the final group prediction. So let me go over here to my email. And let's see what I have. Okay, so the first one that came in was John. Okay, good. Oh, you get good at this after a while, don't you? It's great. Okay, but let me just do John's. His was first, and his was a 5. Okay, so let me put him over here, and this here. And okay, John, why don't you are the judge, and why don't you take us through, oh, you wrote 4.5 and 5, not 1 and 5? Am I wrong there?
No,
oh, that's photo side B.
between...
I'm sorry. No, I see the one. I'm sorry. It's somewhere between 4.5 and 5. I got it. Okay. Why don't you give the justification for that?
Okay, so up there on my ideograms, I got a real strong hit on subjects. Um, I do 3 ideograms just to see if there's multiple stalls, but in this case it was just one for me, so that was a very strong hit on subject. And then, so then I go over to the left and right subject on the signal line in the middle. And the first precept that I got was crosshatch material that was made out of cloth, and I thought that was an interesting aspect to that target. For some reason, I mean, there's a lot going on in photosite B, but as soon as I saw the dog leash, I'm like, oh, that's it, because it was some strong cloth material, but it has like a crosshatch design.
I see.
So,
okay.
If I wasn't self-judging, it probably would be overlooked by an independent judge. But as soon as I saw that, I'm like, oh, that's it.
And that's a really important point, because in a class like this, we want to make sure people understand we are doing self-judging. In fact, many of us prefer self-judging for reasons just like what John said here. Other people prefer independent judging. But what we're doing here is independent judging, and that's one of the reasons I like to have the people describe how they did the judging, because often you will see comments like that. Okay, go ahead, continue, sorry.
So up the top, when I write PI, personal intimacy, where it says highly distracted by my name, that's to kind of declare there's a lot going on in my current environment. That's why I don't have a lot of data in my sessions.
Okay.
Literally have bombs dropping outside. So
right.
And we got so colors. I got just the basic colors. Red, oddly enough, red came in last for me, and I didn't really get the much for photosite A. As you can see, everything's marked green. And the next thing I got was an AOL of a flat wooden surface, like a desk, and then the smell of wood. And to me, that's the skateboard, because it was a flat horizontal surface made of wood. I didn't get the wheels or anything. I just got like a flat wooden surface, and I wrote that down into dimensions: horizontal, flat, and vertical elements. And then, since I didn't have a lot of incorrect data to score my session down, I went ahead and put it as a 4.5 or a 5. It's pretty clearly, in my view, pointing towards
right.
type B. So yeah, so
very interesting. Okay, that's really good. And the only red mark, and using color, that's just what I do. So just because, when you get all through, you can easily count them up if you want, or look at them. And in this case, it's really good. I mean, the ones that you didn't mark, it looks like you've got almost 90% of the possible elements. And as soon as you get, and this is a really rough rule of thumb, because there's a strength to the matches in addition to just being a match, in my opinion. But roughly, you should have at least 50% of the elements marked as being matches. And again, that's rough to get up to the 3.5 level. Okay, John, very good. Thank you. Certainly, and now I have a sense of that. I certainly would not quarrel. It's interesting that you said you had to do this fast. You didn't get too many elements, and yet here it is. I would agree that that's probably maybe a 4.5 or 5. For 5, what is unambiguous here? It's sort of the collection of elements.
For me, it's that there's a subject. It's
right.
The gestalt, and the fact that there's cloth in there.
Cloth. And even the wood.
There's none of that.
And even the wood. Right. Yeah. Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's do another one. And I feel like I'm going to do more of them, but I want to do Jen's now because I think she was the only other 5. Let me verify that. And so
yeah, mine was a 5. Mine was a 5, Marty. It may even be scoreable higher than that.
Yeah. And that's why I want to look at it, because in terms of a group manager, I have to make judgments about that.
But anyways, what I had is almost completely. I AOL the boats. It was being taken from a boat with a black lettering and white gel coat. You can't see it in the picture, but where that's looking at I saw the license lettering and recognized the license lettering on the boat itself. I mean, that's an AOL.
Right.
Everything else, I had my first impression was water, and the idea of splitting off and splitting and coming together, which is definitely iceberg.
I think we're all turning our heads sideways, but wait, so
okay.
we're on page water. I just want to see where you did water. Is it on the bottom one here?
It's on the page with the 4 hash thing. You see those wavy marks in there? That's water. Okay?
Wait, am I looking at the right one here? Is this the right page?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so so this is water.
Yeah, well, it's not just the ideogram, but I mean it was like just what was down below there. That right there. That's water. Okay, and the idea of splitting the idea of splitting of two things splitting apart. That's an iceberg. There's no question about that one. Let's see here. It was like the sense of light fluffiness, the floating around, circling around, which the boat would be circling around.
You've got the words floating in here?
Yes, they're all over the place.
Okay.
The color blue is in there. The color blue is in there. Blue, smooth and soft. The water is very calm, unusually calm for that particular location, by the way. That location is not far from where I live, by the way.
You can tell from the iceberg?
I can tell from the background, from the way that the harbor is behind the iceberg. It's St. John's. That's St. John's back there. Yeah, go to the right of the iceberg there. That looks like the mountains behind St. John's.
Interesting. Okay.
That's in Newfoundland. That's in Newfoundland. It's just off the coast.
Okay.
Anyway,
go ahead, John.
I also got the impression of the kissing of the screeching in, kissing the cod, that kind of thing. I got a bunch of stuff. Like sea stuff,
Right.
I did get a grid pattern, which I on the second page there, the thing with the little things above that. I got that grid pattern, which is where the only thing that I got that I would attribute to B. The rest of it was smooth, cool, floating, flowing, cool water, dark contrasting luminance. That particular blue look, that particular blue that like a circling, floating around, which is what icebergs do.
Yeah, pushing down. I can see. Okay, and the bees, you did get some bees, and also the person. You didn't mark A's and B's over here. It looks like.
No, I didn't mark it down on that side,
but the B would be the person. Okay, but I can see
the person is sitting down controlling something with a big wheel. I mean, is controlling something. That's a boat control. It looks like a boat control.
Oh, so you would even interpret this as a boat,
marine,
and not the
it's
person.
Marine.
Yeah, but it could be the person walking the dog.
I don't think so, because they're sitting down.
Yeah.
They're sitting in a chair. It was a sitting in a chair. Okay. It's more of a controlling thing. I put down control. The space, the alphanumeric, wide open. The wide open, it was a wide open, just feeling to it.
You wrote floating twice here.
Oh, it was a very strong sense of floating or flowing.
Okay.
I got currents. I got the blue colors, the kind of weird glow that icebergs have. It was just, I'm surprised I didn't AOL an iceberg from the color of it, because they kind of have a unique color to them, and it's familiar to me. It's something that's close to where I am. So
let me give you some thoughts that came through my mind. Okay, right or wrong. The one is probably, you feel so strongly about this 5 that I would say you probably underrated the 1. It probably should be at least a 2, 1.5. I'm just saying that, but you got, 4 B's here, and a person, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though it's not, so that's one thought. And then the other thought is, well, I'm going to share it because it came into my mind,
Go ahead.
and that is you knowing that site. I wonder if you were drawn to it
Absolutely.
now, and then, you know,
I wouldn't be surprised. I would
Right.
not be surprised that would be a big attractor to me because I really like icebergs and I really like Newfoundland and I like boats.
right.
So
And that's something which
highly
people
attractive, yes.
needs to be worked on if you turn out to be wrong. We don't know you're going to be wrong,
Yeah.
but if you
Right.
turned out to be wrong, and you were the miss side over here, then that would certainly explain it, which points out a really, really important point for everybody, and that is this concept of attractors. The only attractor that matters when you're doing a remote viewing session is the feedback target. You know, we talk
Okay.
about other things being attractors to us and all that. We have to know, and when we go down to do the remote viewing session, that those become irrelevant. In fact, in some ways, you want to reduce their attraction kind of deep down. You know, it's sort of a sub-cue, a sub-tasking, and make sure that the only attractor that matters is the feedback target. You know, I say that out loud to you to hopefully communicate to all of your subconsciousnesses that that's the way it is. I mean, you know, there are lots of attractors out there, and the only one that matters is the target, the feedback target for that coordinate. Okay, you know, the fact that it's happening
Marty.
now. Yeah, go ahead, John.
So should we do
Oh,
that
I
a
was just
pass then? Because that could very well be.
Yeah, no,
I
as a
don't.
group, I'm going to look at more, but especially taking
Okay.
into account what I just said, which makes this a little weaker, it makes it stronger to go for B.
Yeah.
Okay, John, go ahead.
I was, as soon as she was describing that early on, that's what I was trying to say. I was going to say exactly what you said. That
Okay.
it sounds like she had an emotional attraction to that photo site immediately. The way
Right.
she was describing it a bit excitedly and possibly knowing it. So when I see targets that have an aircraft or a motorcycle in it, and then as soon as the judging photo sites come up, I'm like, oh no, because I feel like I'm going to just automatically pass, even if I have good data, because I know I'm attracted to it, and
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that too. You're probably right. We should probably pass that then, because that's too much. That was, I mean, it's kind of a shock to see something that close to here, the middle of nowhere up here,
Okay. And
So.
and all of that makes sense in terms of the place both of you are. I would suggest that this is an opportunity, and the opportunities are going to be here forever, to improve. Why
Yes.
not set as an objective and then watch it? Again, you're in this for the long term, to really work on that not being an issue. In other words, when something comes up that you might think is an attractor, immediately set that aside. Don't bring any emotion in. You don't want to be emotional. Notice one of the things it says right here is move to your intellectual and non-emotional self, because emotions are attractors. That's why you get all excited when you get a hit. And when you get a miss, you try to bring in positive emotion to the stuff that did match, because it's an attractor. And you don't want attractors going on during your judging. So it might be that you can get to the point where the emotion is so minimal at judging time that you will have, in fact, confidence with your remote viewing session. So that's a suggestion. You two are talking about it, but that's true of virtually everybody. There'll be certain things that their emotions will come up and they need to, calm those down quickly. Otherwise, the emotion itself becomes an attractor. Okay.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, here's Ramel. He's got 2 pages. Did you put the CRs? You also should always put the CRs on your sheet. I don't remember what you did, Ramel, but oh,
All the
there
way
they
on
are,
top.
right at the top. Okay. Okay, so I do see a lot of B's and a few A's. Well, why don't you take us through it again as a judge, because you're doing self-judging. So go ahead, take us through it, reasonably quickly, but go ahead, take us through it.
Yeah. The very first start is the acceleration forward, and that's the motion that I felt. That's why I was feeling really compelled that the target is in motion. So it's like there's this boom that I heard. That could possibly be when he's skateboard. There's a boom sound that you can hear. Fast, it's just erratic as well. So it's just not just one linear movement. It was erratic. It was like left, right, forward, and then there's like a, like up and down kind of motion that I feel when I'm on a target. I really feel almost jarring that, I couldn't really focus on being peaceful and stuff because I was just in motion for the most part. And so it was like I just start to capture it, so that there's a gray there too. I think that's B and A as well. The black as well, the flat. So atmospheric, that would be both ways, in a way. Because in a way, when you look at it, just like evaluating Jen's, if I could, she mentioned about floating, and that can only be on A. I beg to disagree because the skateboarder is floating. So
okay, you might have.
And he's wearing blue.
You might have.
It's like blue pants.
Okay. And there's no disagreement. What matters is how you judge your transcript.
Exactly. And look at here, like I got blue. Blue is actually both A and B, but I know it's mostly blue, mostly A.
Yeah, but right. You know what I do?
Yeah.
I put B1/2.
And then I got this thing of the fixed thing, like rectangular thing. I'm like, I couldn't figure this out. Where does this go to? It's like, oh my God! It's like, when look at it, it's the leash.
Oh, you say the leech, and I think it's this.
Or that. Like I didn't really. I just saw that.
Right. You didn't give it a whole lot of credit either. But okay.
And then the next page, the gelatinous thing, that would definitely be an A. The glowy, it's almost like you're walking through a candle. And it's fixed, and so.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. And again, you have a lot more B's, and you satisfy more than 50%. And some of these, again, the quality and the strength of the matches were just excellent. The motion and everything, and the way you described it. I mean, you were there. And you used all of your senses, which is what, ARV and precognition like this is all about. So that was great. Thank you, Ramel.
You're welcome.
Let's go back. And we did Jen. We did Ramel. Let's do Donna. Okay, I think I can rotate this. Let me see if they'll let me do that. Yeah. Well, probably a couple more times. Okay, there you go. Okay, Donna, why don't you, as the judge, tell us how your mindset was.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
So one thing that struck me watching everybody else judge is that a lot of us had people sitting at a table, and that grid pattern, which I thought was interesting. But for me, I really keyed off on what those were in the background. To me, it looked like a window of some kind. So while I was grading this, I definitely gave myself some credit for what I thought was a window or some kind of a railing or deck part, and definitely I saw it was brown. but looking at these better, that's a fence instead of a window. But when I first saw the picture, it looked like windows in the background.
Right.
I also was, if you look at the people sitting at the table, I definitely was getting this weird little heart-shaped thing, which is the shape of the bushes in
Where
the
am I?
window there.
Okay.
So I gave that a half.
Okay.
Uh,
There's people. Are these the window? This is what you saw as
no, it was
windows.
just a grid pattern on there. It was
Yeah.
almost like webbing
Okay.
to me, is
Okay.
what
It's
it seemed
certainly
like.
more like this than this, for sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. And you didn't put a B there.
Yeah, I didn't. Maybe I should
Okay.
have.
Well, in view of what you're saying now, in terms of the
It's kind of
judging,
random.
yeah, that's okay. No, that's okay. I'm just, you know, giving you feedback. I would have put a B there if that was my
Okay.
sense. That's all.
Yeah, I definitely sense some kind of webbing, grid pattern type thing. So, yeah, I maybe should have gave it a B.
Brown.
So with the brown, I gave a B, obviously.
Right.
I kept seeing circles or these circular shapes or saucer shapes, which really didn't come out to be much. Also, these look so smooth in the background. Like I said, when I first looked at them, I thought they might be glass, like a brick building with glass windows.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at it now, I see it's more of a fence. So we could take away that 0.5 for smoother glass because that's not what it was. However,
That's okay. Your subconscious might have done the same thing, so I don't have any problem. But anyway, I understand your logic, and you got no dynamics. That would have been a good one to get, wouldn't it?
yes.
And if this turns out to be true, when you do your feedback, that's what you're going to work on. See, that's a perfect time to work on, and sounds too. You know.
Yeah. No sound.
I didn't hear actually on the
those windows for the fence.
Yeah.
To me, though, they seem like windows, but the key of the windows and then that kind of heart shape of the hedges.
Mm-hmm. Okay, my feedback to you, and again, I'm only one person, is that maybe
the circles could be the wheels, maybe. Oh, sorry.
Oh, the circle could be the wheels. Oh, had she thought that actually makes it a little higher, yeah. And this could be the leash. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I can't quarrel with 3.5. You know, as an independent judge, I might have given it a 3. We've done studies where we had independent judges judging the same transcript against the same pair, and typically against one individual photo site, differences of 1 are not unusual. So this is subjective to a certain extent, but it's judging based on those criteria. Okay.
Well, excellent. Compared to some of my other ones, I think I would probably pass if I was having to bet. So
then you would give it a 3 if that's how you were feeling, because you're communicating this to your group manager as well.
Yes.
And so then, you know, it's sort of like bridge. There's a communication system, and ours is the TARG scale. And so you would pass.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I definitely would keep it in my mind on June 3rd. I put it on my calendar just to see what it turned out, because I wouldn't be surprised if it was photo site B, but.
Well, and you'll come back. Yeah, no, I agree. And you showed that was the way you leaned, and you thought you had some psych, even with the 3. You said, yeah.
Well, especially getting to see everybody else's with the people sitting. It's funny that 3 of us had the people sitting and that grid pattern.
Yes,
each one of us
that is interesting. Oh, we do have one more. Okay, let's look at it quickly, because I do want to know what we're predicting. Okay, so Donna, let's see what you have here. Okay, again, I should be able to, oh no. Oh, we just did Donna, I'm sorry. Okay, so we've done everybody. So now let's go looking here. It's pretty clear we're going to do B. A, you know, the 5, and with the things we said about it, reduces it, I would probably make this maybe a 2.5. Well, I might make it a 3. There was so much there. We don't know it was the attractor, but I certainly wouldn't make it wagerable. And that's me. Other people who average would probably make it even lower. But again, a 2 or a 3, a difference of 1 is, in fact, I'm going to make it a 2.5 for that reason. But it's not wagerable. Now, what do you do with this as a group manager? Well, you could average all of them. You could average the yellows. The average of this is only 3.3. See, the average on all doesn't work. I look at this and I look at the strength of this, and I actually have no problem giving this a 4.5 overall. Then you put in comments, and remember, you would be doing this individually, and it would be saved, so you could go back and look at it. So, you could say, Jen could say strong attractor. I'm afraid it was a strong attractor or something like that. Okay, but I'm just going to put webinar class. Okay. Pretty clear choice for B. Okay, and now notice up to this point, none of us know which one is associated with yes or no. This could be yes or no. This could be yes or no. Only the computer knows. As soon as I click this, it's now going to tell us, since clearly we went with photo site B, it is going to tell us, oh, the prediction is yes. That's perfect, because the next, okay, so there it is. The prediction is a yes. And in fact, I'm going to put that on this right here. I happen to started using the same Excel sheet here. So here the prediction is yes. And then what do you do next? Well, first of all, you say, okay, I feel good. I've got a prediction as a judge. A group manager would pass this all on to everybody else in the group. And from the ARV perspective, the next big thing that happens, of course, is feedback. But there is what I call like the fourth leg of ARV, and that is wagering. Even if it isn't this kind, if they did it in the military when they did the remote viewing, they would have to decide how much resources to put into the result. Do they set a satellite if the remote viewing was to look for a lost plane, which in fact happened, and they thought it was good enough that they sent a satellite out to look for the airplane. So you're using resources, and that's what wagering is all about, using resources. But what we're going to do is now wager on this, and I'll show you how to do that, because it is really part of ARV in my opinion. I got that from 5 Dimes. So that's a wagering site, one that I use. Okay, I'll just make this bigger so you can see. And I got this from, I think I got this from Futures here. Interesting, because I don't even remember anymore. But we'll be able to find it. There was a whole bunch of stuff on the Academy Awards, but it was less than a month away, but that would have been fun to do too. Okay, AFL Entertainment. Well, maybe I didn't get it from there. Let me try this Future. Soccer. And it was the Europa League. There we go. Okay, looks like I don't think the odds were exactly this before, but I am still willing, and this is how all of the wagering sites will allow you to do the same thing. They all have somewhat different interfaces. Once you learn them, they all become easy just because, you know, they obviously go out of their way to make it as user-friendly as possible. So what I've done is basically what we have now predicted, which is that one of these two will be the winner. And so I am betting $10 here, and now notice this plus 400. If I bet 100, I'd get 400 back. So they're based on a $100 wager, but it all scales. So I'm putting in 10, I'm putting in 10, and down here there's a continue, and up here there's a continue. And this is very similar to the one I showed you. I just don't remember it being these exact numbers. But then it wants my password. And I just check it. It looks right, just so you can see how, I mean, it's very straightforward. I hit continue. Oh, I hope I remembered it right. Let's see. Well, God, wow, that surprises me. Though it's been a long time since I've used this. Okay, wait, give me a moment. I might as well look it up, but I don't want you all to see that and make it part of the record. So I'm going to go to where I keep that stuff. Well, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I am going to do this after we finish, but I think at this point, just within the interest of time, I try to finish these in 2.5 hours. That's obviously not rigid, but I think it's more important for me to go on with the presentation and finish that off. Okay, so that's what we'll do now. So you saw I am going to put in a wager because I feel this is strong enough that that's what's going to happen. Okay, now let me summarize this all by giving you just a few slides here. First of all, you're the one who is creating your precognition. You're the one doing the remote viewing. You're the one doing the feedback session, and this really is precognitive telepathy. The word telepathy is used for mind-to-mind communication. We don't usually think of it over time, but that's what it is. It's your mind at this time communicating with your mind at this time. So you're the one who is creating with your conscious awareness, your intention, attention, expectation, and then taking action. Okay, you're doing all of this. And you are creating your RV transcript, your feedback session. It's really cool. And you should feel really good about doing this and, you know, taking it on as, I don't know, it's been called the mental martial arts. It's a consciousness martial arts, but it really is something which you can do and get better at. And I think this is really important and underappreciated, what else is going on in your life is also influenced and entangled with future life experiences. Most people, you tell them that and they'd have a very hard time even understanding what you're saying. You, because you're doing this, you've done it, okay? You know that the future, in fact, influences the past. You do it. okay? Taking that in, believing that at the deepest level, at the quantum foam level, believing that deeply opens you up for other parts of your life to do the same thing, like health, okay? The future healthy self can feed back information and create that very health. It's a loop. It's a cycle, okay? They're connected. They're entangled. Now, in terms of sending things back, and there's this concept of syntropy that Ulysses has talked about in numbers of webinars that we've had with him, and you can look up. He says, and it's hard to disagree with, that if you're going to send things back to yourself and you're going to get entangled with your older, wiser, loving you, that's a really important thing to do. And that's not a bad attractor either, to have love as the emotion. But you know, there are a lot of other emotions that go along that are quite positive as well. You know, joy, appreciation, passion, all of these very positive emotions. Send them back whenever you can. And how about at feedback time? Hey, spending time sending it back, feeling it and sending it back, that can do nothing but be good for you physically in the physical world as well as the spiritual world. It's the spiritual world that's doing the entangling, that's making it in fact be part of your life. So use that knowledge. You precoggers know that better than most, frankly, because you've done it yourself. So we talked about attractors. What better attractor than love? And here's something, I love the internet, but love is the strange attractor, the allurement that holds the universe together. If you had to choose one thing, that would be, you know, pretty good one actually. And health and healthy wealth is something which we should go to. Wealth means a lot more than money. In fact, the money part of it is probably the least important part of it. But, you know, the sharing, the feeling really good about the resources you have that you can use to better not only your life, but the life of others. That's wealthy. Okay, that's it. I am really happy you all joined me, and I'm open for questions, comments, anything else you'd like to share. Okay, I will take your quietness to mean you're pretty much done. And yeah, I thank you all for coming. And I will end this now. And all be happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. Take care.